Viewer discretion is advised. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. No one expected it. Not the jury, not the fans, not even the industry insiders. But when Diddy's own bodyguards broke their silence, everything shifted. After years of whispers, the truth finally came out. And what they revealed? It stunned the courtroom. They called it a conspiracy, an urban legend. But now, the tunnels are real, the tapes are real, and the empire built on silence is starting to fall. This isn't just about parties. It's about control, power, and the people who got hurt to protect it. Real quick, let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far this community reaches. Let's get into it. It came from Gene Deal, Diddy's longtime bodyguard. For years, Gene kept quiet. He saw what happened behind the curtain, but stayed silent. Until now. The drive was labeled Project Zero. Inside was video footage, raw, uncut, and real. The courtroom watched in stunned silence. A jury member reportedly cried. What they saw wasn't just disturbing. It confirmed what people had been afraid to say out loud for years. It wasn't a panic room or wine cellar. This was something else. Dim corridors, red lights, coded doors, rooms labeled Obey. One had soundproof walls and restraints. Another had a mounted camera pointed at a velvet couch. Prosecutors say this setup wasn't for personal use. It was a trap. Footage was recorded, stored, and used for leverage, used for silence, maybe even used to control careers. Some insiders say the tunnel wasn't just for leverage, it was also a status test. If you were important enough or useful enough, you got invited in. If not, you stayed behind. Wondering what happened in the parts of the mansion no one spoke about. The people who came back from inside, they never talked. Some got record deals, others got sudden career bumps, and a few simply vanished from the scene altogether. Former staff say they were told not to ask questions. That curiosity could get them blacklisted, or worse. According to one employee who later quit, the tunnel was where careers were made, or buried. You can hear it in his tone. He's not just angry, he's tired. That tunnel, he says, wasn't just physical. It was psychological warfare. He says the staff was told to obey. Guests were recorded without their knowledge. Powerful people came in and left changed. Some never said a word again. Another bodyguard, who goes by Big Homie Double C, came forward recently in a separate interview. He worked private security for multiple celebrities, often protecting female clients in the modeling and entertainment world. He says he was present at 3 of Diddy's private parties. But he's clear. These weren't just parties. There were layers. The front was upscale, normal, a mixer with Hollywood's elite. Then came the man in the black suit. He'd walk in, collect everyone's phones, and quietly invite select guests to another level. That's when, according to CC, discrepancies start to take place. One of them barely had a glass of wine and couldn't stand up. He tried to intervene. He says he was told to relax, that it was normal. But he knew it wasn't. When he pushed back, a fight broke out. He was hit with a bottle, ended up needing stitches. The people who attacked him? Security from Diddy's team? He said the next layer of the party was always behind a door, or up a flight of stairs. That's where the sex workers arrived, male and female. That's where people paired off. That's where things started to feel off. He said the drugs were there, openly, not in secret, not even hidden. And it wasn't just alcohol. According to him, everything from ketamine to ecstasy to a pink cocaine mix called Tusi was available. He saw guests getting dosed, some without their knowledge. One of his clients started throwing up. He had to carry her out. A lot of strange things take place, he said. The worst thing he ever saw? Diddy in a towel, holding hands with two men who looked like they walked out of a vampire movie. 1 minute, he was hosting. The next, he was disappearing into a room with red lighting and mirrored walls. CC says he saw enough to know it was time to leave. Some events had handlers, unnamed men dressed in all black who directed where guests could go, who they could speak to, and even when they could leave. One former model told investigators she had to wait 6 hours after asking to go home. Her friend wasn't allowed to leave at all. Another witness claimed she saw a celebrity escorted to a locked room and told it was for his own privacy. No one checked on him for hours. It felt like we were watching something criminal, she said. But in an industry where everyone's trying to protect their future, no one said a word. Other bodyguards, insiders, and former friends started speaking up. Stories about Diddy's obsession with control, about people being recorded without consent, about non-disclosure agreements that lasted decades, about favors owed after wild nights that no one wanted to talk about guests waking up the next day not remembering anything, just knowing something was wrong. With what? Some say GHB. Others mention scopolamine, a drug that causes memory loss and confusion. One former security professional said he tested positive for it after leaving an event, despite never drinking from the venue's open bar. He says he got pneumonia 3 times in 6 years, lost part of a lung. He's convinced it wasn't an accident. And now the lawsuits are piling up. Not just Cassie, not just anonymous Jane Does, but bodyguards, staff, witnesses. They're all saying the same thing, that Diddy's empire wasn't built just on music. It was built on silence, on leverage, on footage no one wants released. It's not just one. New reports suggest that Diddy's mansion wasn't the only one with a hidden passage. One alleged tunnel leads to another estate, Will Smith's. The two properties are close, right next to each other in Los Angeles. And while Smith's team has denied everything, the rumor mill hasn't stopped. The tunnel was allegedly used to evade cameras, avoid guests, and move freely between parties without being seen. People are asking the same question. Why would someone need a tunnel like that? Federal agents say they found more than one passage during their raid on Diddy's property. One led to a hidden grotto under the pool. Another opened into a hallway behind a mirrored wall. Prosecutors believe the tunnels weren't just for escape. They were for control. To separate guests, to move people without being seen, to trap people in a world where no one was watching. Not the ones you could see. Hidden ones. Cameras in speakers, in corners, in walls. According to court documents, some of the footage collected from these parties shows celebrities, athletes, even politicians. And many didn't know they were being filmed. One insider said Diddy kept everything, called it memorabilia, used it when he needed a favor, or when someone tried to walk away. Some reports claim that federal agents didn't even know whose house they were raiding until the last second. That's how high the stakes were. That's how deep this went. The footage that surfaced already shows more than enough to shock the public. But sources say there's more. Much more. Leonardo DiCaprio is reportedly suing a media outlet after his name was linked to one of Diddy's tapes. The rumor that his image was captured at one of these secret parties without his consent. Ben Affleck was allegedly warned that his wife, Jennifer Lopez, appeared in some of the recovered footage. And insiders claim that Jamie Foxx's family was the one who first tipped off the FBI after Jamie went into a coma. Fox later said it himself. "I asked my partner for an Advil. I woke up 22 days later." He blames Diddy, says he was drugged and left unconscious. That was the moment, according to sources, when the dam broke. Because once the tapes came out, once the tunnels were confirmed, once people like Gene Deal and Big Homie CC started talking, more stories poured out. And one name kept coming up: Ava Baroni Combs. Back in 2020, during a live Instagram session, Diddy introduced a young white girl as his adopted daughter. Her name was Ava. On camera, Diddy said he adopted her just like Madonna adopted kids, claiming he wanted her to experience the love of a black parent. But something about the video felt off. Ava looked uncomfortable. Diddy kept prompting her to repeat the story, how he found her, picked her up off the street, got permission from her mother. But Ava's face didn't match his words. It didn't look like love. It looked like pressure. She hasn't appeared in public. She hasn't posted. Fans have noticed and started asking questions. Where is she? Why did Diddy adopt her so publicly, only for her to vanish? And why did it feel like her introduction was more about deflecting attention than building a family? Now, with everything coming to light, lawsuits, tunnels, parties, and footage, people are revisiting Ava's story with new eyes. Some believe it was a PR move. Others think it was something darker. And with the footage prosecutors are now reviewing, there's a real fear that the adoption itself may not have been what it seemed. Federal authorities have reportedly included Ava's adoption in their broader investigation, looking into whether proper procedures were followed and whether the child's welfare has been compromised. Because when someone is accused of drugging women, recording people without consent, and trafficking minors across state lines, the question isn't just, did he break the law? The question becomes, who else did he put at risk? Diddy's empire wasn't just about music. It wasn't just about fame or fashion or parties. According to multiple lawsuits, it was about control. And one of the most powerful tools of control? Footage, hidden cameras, silent leverage. Imagine going to a party, drinking something you didn't pour, and waking up the next day not knowing what happened. Now imagine finding out you were filmed, and the footage is in someone else's hands. That's what insiders claim fueled his influence. And that's what Gene Deal, his former bodyguard, says he saw up close for years. He says Diddy kept hard drives, labeled files, names, dates, acts, all stored away. Not because he was proud, but because he knew the value of silence. And the silence worked. For decades, big names stayed away. Former friends looked the other way. Stevie J, one of Diddy's longtime collaborators, still defends him publicly, even now. Some say it's loyalty. Others say it's fear. After all, when you've been to these parties, when you've signed those NDAs, when you know you might be on camera, maybe staying quiet isn't a choice. Maybe it's survival. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex, filed a lawsuit saying she was violated while Diddy watched and recorded. She says he hurt her, controlled her, threatened to release tapes if she ever left. Her lawsuit was settled, quietly, but it opened the door. Then came Lil Rod, a producer who worked closely with Diddy. He sued, too, claimed he was forced to procure escorts, that he witnessed minors being flown across state lines, that parties turned into trafficking events, that guests were drugged, that consent didn't matter, that the parties were pre-planned, and the cameras were always rolling. And it doesn't stop there. Some reports now claim federal agents found thousands of bottles of baby oil during the raid on Diddy's mansion. Why baby oil? According to court filings, some tested positive for liquid GHB. That's the same drug known for causing memory blackouts. The same drug often linked to assault. If those tests hold up, Diddy could be facing mandatory life sentences. Let that sink in. Not for assault, not for drugs, but for what those drugs were used to do. Now, layer on the tunnels, The discovery of a tunnel connecting Diddy's estate to Will Smith's has thrown everything into chaos. For years, rumors have swirled about Smith and Diddy's relationship. Some called it a friendship. Others called it something more. But now, with a physical passage between their homes, hidden from view, unknown to most, the questions have gotten louder. What was that tunnel for? Why wasn't it disclosed? And who else used it? But according to multiple reports, Smith was a regular guest at Diddy's parties. One former executive said they saw Smith at multiple events, always after phones were taken, always after the guest list had thinned. Some even claim Smith used the tunnel to avoid being seen by paparazzi. But the tunnel, according to prosecutors, wasn't just a convenience. It was a tool, a way to isolate, a way to escape, a way to protect the powerful. And Smith's name isn't the only one under scrutiny. From Justin Bieber to Usher to Ben Affleck, more celebrities are being dragged into the storm, not because they did something wrong, but because they were there, because they were filmed, because now those tapes might be in the hands of federal agents. And if anything on them shows wrongdoing, even by accident, careers could end overnight. It's about Hollywood, about the music industry, about the gatekeepers and the enablers, about the people who turned a blind eye because the music was good and the parties were better. And it's about the victims, the women who say they were drugged, the men who say they were coerced, the kids who got caught in a world they didn't understand. And the question everyone's asking now is, what happens next? Some believe Diddy will cut a deal, that he'll turn over names, tapes, emails, whatever the feds want, if it means staying out of prison. Others believe he won't get the chance, that he knows too much, that if he talks, others will fall. Powerful people, people who don't want to be exposed. Gene Deal, the bodyguard who started it all, said it plainly, the tunnel wasn't just physical, it was psychological warfare. He said he saw people manipulated, broken, changed, and for years he stayed silent. But not anymore. The tapes exist, and now the world is watching. What's hiding behind Hollywood's smile? What's buried under the mansions? What's trapped in the tapes? We're going to find out. Because the bodyguards are done protecting the lies, and now they're telling the truth. Thanks for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you've ever worked in the industry or know someone who has. Because every voice matters, and the more we speak out, the harder it is for silence to survive. Stay safe, stay alert, and we'll see you next time.